Good evening to you, Mr. McWatt. Good evening, Coach Jatin. Good evening, Leon.
Good evening to you, Dennis and Mr. McWatt.
Welcome to all. This is another edition of the cricket show. We are delighted to have you as our guest, Mr. McWatt, and we look forward to pulling all those threads that you have floating in your head. We know that you have used so graciously in the development of cricket, youth and otherwise, because you want to spread the word around the globe as far as cricket is concerned. I think it's prudent for us to begin this by my asking you, who is Tony McWatt? And what was the inspiration that pushed you to create and publish the West Indies Wicket magazine?
Well, Tony McWatt, he is the only son of a former Guyanese wicketkeeper batsman, the late Clifford Aubrey McWatt, known as Baby Boy McWatt, who played 6 Test matches for the West Indies during the 50s and has a very unique record of having given Sir Garfield Sobers his very first Test wicket. So I was born into a cricketing family, and I've always had West Indies cricket in my blood. I stumbled into writing about West Indies cricket in the early 90s when I was living in Toronto, and started writing for a Caribbean weekly newspaper, I should say, called Caribbean Camera. The editor, who was a Trinidadian, encouraged me to share my knowledge about West Indies cricket. So that's where my writing career started. So since then, I have been, a regular writer. I've published a number of magazines about cricket. I was executive director for the Ontario Cricket Association at one point. So I've had a long history of involvement, both administratively and as a writer in West Indies cricket. So that's essentially me in a nutshell.
Thank you so much. I might follow that up with another one. What do you hope or strive to achieve with your publications?
Well, West Indies Wickets was basically started. Well, I do a Canadian version of a monthly magazine, online magazine called Wickets for Cricket Canada. It's the official publication. And for years, I'd always wanted to do one for West Indies cricket. And it was Mikey Holding, actually, who 2 years ago encouraged me to start the magazine. And the tagline of We Wickets is restoring the pride in West Indies cricket, and that's what it's all about. I think that West Indians or Caribbean people have lost some of the pride that used to drive some of our players to become as great as they were. So one of the very first things, editorial content that we did with We Wickets was a feature called Greatness Guides, whereby I interviewed a former West Indies cricketer and asked him to outline what it was that he did as a kid that allowed him to become as great as he was. And Greatness Guide was actually the foundation for the Alvin Kallicharran book, because the book is essentially, a takeoff from that. It's sharing the story of former West Indies players and what they did to become as great as they were.
Thank you so much. I'll just pass you over to Leon. I'm sure he has some questions he might want to ask, and then I can come back to you again.
I'm so proud and delighted to be on the show with this fine gentleman and Mr. McWatt. I'm proud of you too. Thinking about the West Indies, many people don't remember the West Indies. They write about their own thoughts. And looking at the West Indies, what are the positives that you've seen, especially with the new president in Mr. Shallow?
Well, with you, I was very impressed with Dr. Shallow's manifesto and how it was outlined. I mean, he's very specific in what he has said that he intends to do. The proof of the pudding will, of course, be on the extent to which he can deliver on the objectives that he has outlined, and that's where I'm sort of like adopting a wait and see attitude, with the hope that he turns out to be a better president than his predecessor, Ricky Skerritt, who also promised much, but actually, is now has the reputation, or earned the reputation of not having delivered on many of the things that his administration had promised during his 4-year tenure. And of course, Dr. Shallow was a vice president in Ricky Skerritt's administration. So I think many individuals like myself who are involved in West Indies cricket are sort of like adopting the attitude of saying, well, we'll wait and see to what extent he can deliver. He has promised some very specific deliverables in the first 6 months of his presidency. So, by the end of this year, we'll have a fair view as to how he's doing. But very impressed with Dr. Shallow himself, and he's bright, he's articulate, and when you hear him speak, you know that he has West Indies cricket as at heart. So I'm hoping and wishing that he can come true on all that he's promised to do.
One other question, and it's closer to you, because I'm worried about the future of Hetmyer. I don't know if you have any information you can share. What exactly is wrong? Why is he not playing for the West Indies?
Oh, Lordy, that's a long story. But my personal take on it is that regardless of what may have prevented Hetmyer from playing for the West Indies, not as often as he should have, given his talents, I think somebody in West Indies cricket, or somebody who he will listen to, needs to have a conversation with the young man, because I personally see Shimron Hetmyer as a future West Indies cricket. I think he has those qualities, those leadership skills, and he is one of the better talents that we have, and it would be a waste for us to let such a wonderful talent go by the wayside and not get the most of what he can contribute to West Indies cricket. So I think that conversation needs to be held, and I've heard that this is one of the objectives of the new administration, that conversations with players are going to take place to make sure that at most times the best West Indies team is put on the field.
Thank you so much. Back over to you, Dennis.
Thank you. Coach, do you wish to step in at this point? No. All right. Not word from Coach. So, Mr. McWatt, where is your magazine, West Indies Wicket, home base? And is the magazine available outside of your home base?
Well, actually, my home base as of now is Barbados. The magazine was started while I was resident in Canada, but I'm pretty much in Barbados now, and hoping to be here more often than I am in Canada. The magazine is an online monthly magazine, so it's available anywhere in the world. And again, I mean, it's only in its second year. We're now in midway through the second volume. So still very much an evolving process. We're trying to get more content from the various regional boards. We've started doing stuff with Barbados Cricket Association and with Stephen Leslie. Barbados is the BCA's communications manager. We've talked to Hilbert Foster, the president of the Berbice Cricket Association, who was such a big part of the Alvin Kallicharran book launching, about doing some things. And we're also in discussions. I had a very good conversation a week or two ago with Azim Bazarat, the current vice president or the new vice president of Cricket West Indies, about the magazine and about his board, the Trinidad and Tobago Cricket Board, coming on board in some way, shape, or form. So I think it's, like I said, it's an evolving process, but everybody who has seen it, it's available online at we.wickets.tel. Has complemented the content of it. We have some very good articles, and it covers some very good information.
Did you ever play cricket as a child or adult? And how do you describe your cricketing self?
Yes, I did actually. I represented my school, Queen's College. I played North Coast cricket, which is second division cricket at the GCC, and that's where I first met Alvin Kallicharran. I started as a wicketkeeper, tried to be following my father's footsteps, but there came a point in time where the Queen's College North Coast team, we used to play in North Coast second division cricket in Guyana, and there was a keeper who was a better batsman than I, so I couldn't find my way into the team. So I reinvented myself as a medium pace bowler and actually became one of the better bowlers in the school. One of the few bowlers actually to have taken a 5-wicket haul in second division cricket for Queen's College during that time. One of my playmates or schoolmates or teammates at QC was none other than Roger Harper. So Roger and I played North Coast cricket and then eventually White Coast cricket together for QC.
Thank you. Quite a collection there. I know you mentioned the book earlier on, and we'll spend some time discussing the book in a short while. But let me see if Leon wants to follow up on anything there that we've discussed.
Yes, indeed.
Before that, Leon, we have Mr. Michael Chambers from Cricket Hall of Fame just joined the meeting, and he is ready to say, and I have invited him to talk about legend and Cricket Hall of Fame, Alvin Kallicharran, as well as his new initiative for the book. So let him have on board and help to have opportunity to say and wish these people good luck and what Hall of Fame can help you to promote their initiative and book. Welcome, Mr. Michael Chambers.
Yes, good evening, gentlemen. Good evening. It's always a pleasure to spend time with you guys, to listen to the discussion. It's always interesting. I guess this is the launching of Mr. Kallicharran's book, right?
Second one now.
Second, right.
Yep.
Right. We fell in love with Mr. Kallicharran at the Hall of Fame when he was inducted, He's an inductee.
Brother is here online too now. Welcome, Alvin Kallicharran. We will get this on as soon as Michael Chambers finishes. Okay.
Yeah.
5 minutes. Yep.
Or you can go ahead. Mr. Chambers, let's pause it. Mr. Alvin Kallicharran is in middle of the practice. And
yes, man.
So go ahead, brother. It's your turn.
Hello, how are you, everybody?
All good.
Great.
Tally.
Yeah. How are you?
I'm good.
Good. I've got 10 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, so go ahead and speak yourself for about that book. That is the what topic we have. we already started discussion, but
Well,
anything you like to say for the listeners and viewers about your book, we are welcome. Just go for it.
well, I mean, when myself and Tony got together, and I know there's a big demand, more so in the Caribbean, because I believe we have lost touch a little bit with grassroots cricket. And we thought it would have been a good idea for us to get together and do this book for our young kids at home, you know, to learn the toughness how we were brought up and how we can be successful, and to let them understand how through all of that, you give them that role modelship and how they can how they can achieve success against difficult life, you know, because we grew up tough. We grew up tough, and having gone there and see the grassroots cricket, there's a big demand for the readership of the young kids in Guyana, because we believe that kids don't read now. Kids don't have role models, you know? And when we grew up, having a role model was a key to my success. When you grew up in a village where I grew up, 2,000 people, and the great Kanhai, Basil Butcher, Joe Solomon, Ivan Matre, and among the later ones like Nagamutu, Bishu, they all came from the same environment and the same village under difficult conditions, hardship. And if kids can read this at this age, it will innovate them. You know, we create a character in them that under all conditions, we can be successful. You know, and if we can do that, and I believe that book will enable youngsters how to be successful. And, you know, it's an incentive for all of us, we West Indians, you know. You know, when I say West India, from all the islands, we all grew up tough. Nothing was given to us. And we had to earn in that period. And when we talk about earning that period, I'm talking about the heroes of West Indies cricket. And I was fortunate to have grown up in that era, to be in the same dressing room. Lance Gibbs was my first captain playing for Guyana at 16. And then when I went into that dressing room and see all these faces, Kanhai, Butcher, Joe Solomon, Clive Lloyd, Roy Fredericks, could you imagine what it means? You know? And to play against Barbados, Sir Gary Sobers, Wes Hall, Seymour Nurse, the heroes, the role models that created us. And before then, Everton Weeks, Clyde Walcott, Sir Frank Worrell, going back to George Headley. And I used to go in the library at the Portmore Community Center and read about these men. And every time I practice, I used to role model myself on them. I want to be Kanhai. I want to be Sobers. I want to be Everton Weeks. I want to be Sir Frank Worrell. And I remember when I went my first visit to Jamaica, the first person I wanted to meet was Sir George. And you know why? Because they created this path for us. They laid a strong foundation for people like me and all the West Indian players that follow. So they are one thing. They helped me to follow that great path and to be what I became. And if you can create that and instill this habit into a younger generation now, and let's start from the grassroots. Let's start from the grassroots. That helped to create all of us. And that's how come myself and Tony, we got this together to do this book. Well done, Tony.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, brother. And we are together for like 15 years with so many youth coaching camps in US. Let me touch base a little bit. You always talk about the 4 pillars, how to become a great player, which takes or which needs the desire. Once you have the desire to play at the higher level, you need to have a dedication. Once you have dedication, you need definitely the determination to do well. And the top of that, the 4th pillar, I call it, you always talk about, is a discipline. Can you highlight or say something about those 4 things for the youngsters? Because this will be the video going to reach out to so many people. The whole interest is to give them the right ingredient so they can fix their head and play right.
One advice to any young cricketers, always be hungry. Always be hungry. And that creates discipline, it creates passion, it creates a strong habit. And habit is a key to anybody's success. And I'm talking purely as a West Indian, growing up in that era. And if you can instill these kind of habits to our young kids now, I think we can be successful. We can be a more successful country than we have been. And our cricket, sorry to say, sorry to say, the success is not there as it should have been.
Anyway, thanks for coming out. Thanks for coming out, brother. And I know you're middle of the practice. I'll let you go because that's more important to take care of the young ones. And you see these all bold and old people talking cricket, and trying to help you. But anyway, for the listeners and viewers, this is a legendary former West Indies captain and very dashing, I call it, during those young days, left-handed batsman, Sir Alvin Kallicharran. He has done a lot over the years. He is also a Hall of Famer. And we are, I will say, happy to have him on board today. He took the break from the middle of the practice, but down the road, we'll definitely catch up with you again.
Yeah, you can hear the noise of the cricket ball going.
I see that.
So
thanks for coming out. Thanks for coming out, and we'll continue. And if you like to stay, it's fine.
Any chance of one quick question with Mr. Kallicharran?
He's on 10-minute break, so
yeah, go on.
Yes,
go ahead.
Yes, I wanted to say, what can you share with us about that Port of Spain Test match when you were given out overnight and then returned the next day, only to add 16 more runs? Did that situation affect your performance the next day?
Tony Gregg.
Not really. I mean, Tony Gregg. Well, Tony Gregg, he can do anything. And then Sangyu was sleeping, the umpire. It was the end of the day. And you tell me, at the end of the day, I'm walking towards the pavilion. Am I going to run a single? Last ball of the day.
And by the way, if you look at the video clip, Alvin Kallicharran was walking. If he has to take the single, he could have jog or run or sprint,
Yeah. He brought an end to probably, and what it was, we were 60 for 6 at that period. Gary Sobers was the last of the main batters. And Julian joined me. And we continued the innings. At the end of the day, I think I was 148 not out. We batted through. And Julian played the last ball of the day towards bat path on the offside. How are you going to run a single?
That don't make sense. Just one
So
quick question, gentlemen. I wondered if it wouldn't be a good idea if West Indies were to be encouraged to have a West Indies cricket television station that just broadcasts all the past players. You have seen young cricketers be passing by and don't know you. You have a book like this today, and you publish that. You'll get more viewership. What are your thoughts about that?
well, we hope so. We hope so. I mean, I said before, what helped me in my success was the role models we had.
But
The role models we had.
many
And-
young cricketers today don't even will pass.
No, they don't know. You
No.
know why? They don't remember their heroes.
And some actually don't know.
Yep.
Yes,
Well,
sir.
that's that is a question for the public and the players and the present players who don't know us or who don't want to know us. That's another story.
You know, you are rubbing shoulders with a lot of greatness. The question for you, for me, is who was your hero growing up in that dressing room in those early years?
Well, all of them. When you're in the dressing room with Gary Sobers, Rohan Kanai, Lance Gibbs, what else do you want? Clive Lloyd. What else do you want? You used to look at them and you pee yourself.
Only difference is when he was growing up, he has a high interest to learn from those other legends, where today's cricketers don't want to learn from anything from any legend. How about that? That was a huge difference in locker room, right?
And those men used to sit and talk cricket.
Yep.
They used to sit, and I, as a young kid, if you take 2% of the knowledge, every game you sit with them, you know what that is? It stays with you permanently.
Yes.
So that was the key towards my success. And I'm sure the past players that played in my time will say that.
What is your hooking style called? I know Kanai is called the Kanai Clanger. What is yours called?
I didn't get that.
Your style of hooking. What is it called? Is it, remember that brutal attack on Lily?
Yeah, well, as Gary Sobers used to say, see a ball, hit a ball.
That's it. That's today's T20.
Yep.
He played that T20 inning way back in 1975. Think about it.
Yeah. And because we were all self-taught people, I was self-taught.
Yeah.
We didn't have coaches. And the only coach we had was on tour is the bus we used to travel on. That was our only coach. Okay. Anyway, gentlemen, pleasure speaking to you. And
no problem. And we will catch up sometime soon for the lengthy discussion. But I know you need time to go back with the kids.
I hope Tony can talk to you about the book more. The book.
We will. That's the target we have today. Thank you, sir, coming out.
Pleasure. Thank you so much, all of you.
Chambers, we are back to you now.
Thank you, Mr. Chambers.
Stay safe and healthy.
God bless.
To all of you. Pleasure.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Take care.
Go ahead, Mr. Chambers.
Have a good
Continue
evening.
now. Yeah.
Thank you.
No, it was a pleasure when we met Mr. Kallicharran, and we've always had a discussion with the president of the Cricket West Indies. I always ask the question, why don't you have these legends on every tour? You bring two, you pay for them to hang out in the dressing room talking with the young players, and they never did it. And now you're hearing exactly what Mr. Kallicharran is saying, He used to look up to the older players. As soon as our players get old, we throw them away. Then we bring all these young kids in the dressing room, and they can't seem to help each other get out of the way, So I hope this book, we should reach out to Mr. Shallow, President Shallow, to buy a few of these books and distribute them amongst the cricketers. You know, I had a discussion with him and he told me he bought a number of Mikey Holdings books and distributed to the players. And I am going to bet any money that Mr. Holdings' book is not as interesting as this book that Mr. Kallicharran is putting out. So maybe you can write to Mr. Shallow, Mr. Patel.
I will do that. I will do that.
You know, going from the Hall of Fame, asking him to
On sometime.
Gentlemen, let me jump in and correct some.
Yeah.
Kali's book is basically, as he said, this new book is aimed at the school children. We're going to it's a children's illustrated storybook about Kali's personal journey from the very most humble beginnings. He as a child, he lived in a room with 11 siblings. He couldn't afford to buy a bat, so he made his own bats out of wood, but he always had this desire to become a famous West Indies cricketer, and he got that desire from hearing as a kid about the George Headleys and the three W's, and that was his inspiration. So we have put together this book as his journey, and it's interesting that you guys talk about the 75 duel with Dennis Lilly, because that's the culmination, because I consider that to be Kali's finest moment when he took on Dennis Lilly, who was then the greatest fast bowler in the world, and literally destroyed him in front of how thousands of people there were at the Oval. So, and one of the things that Kali talks about is the fact that his journey was self-taught. I mean, he was inspired by the greats that had gone before, but then he made himself into a student of cricket. He read everything that was available. He listened to broadcasts. He even made notes on the qualities that he admired in cricketers like the three W's and Kanai and so was. And it's interesting, but every conversation that you've had with any great West Indies cricketer, and that going back to the Wee Wickets and the Greatest Skies, I have now interviewed Mikey Holdings, Sir Andy Roberts, Lance Gibbs, Alvin, Michael Finley out of Jamaica, Sir Richie Richardson, and it's the same trend in their story. As kids, they were students of the game. They were inspired by the legends that had gone before, and they wanted to become like those legends. And that is what fueled their development. And that is what is lacking in our cricketers today. So that's the whole purpose of the book, was to provide young kids starting at the 5 to 8 year olds with a source of education and inspiration, that passion for their own self-development can be rekindled. So, I mean, I've read Mike. I've known Mikey for a long while. I've read his book. I wouldn't compare what we're doing to Whispering Death, which was his very wonderfully written autobiography by my very good friend Tony Kojo, God rest his soul. So it's not the comparison that we would want to make. This is of a different direction entirely.
But can I just say something to you?
Absolutely.
If I was listening to the book, what you're saying about the book, if I was listening to Sir Alvin, if I was listening to what is in the book, these players today needs to read this journey. This would be a good starting point for a 5-year-old, and it will be a good starting point for even a Jermaine Blackwood, who knows nothing about dedication, discipline,
Determination.
listen to what is in this book. I am not asking. I haven't read the book yet. I have listened to Alvin Kallicharran for a whole week. He came to the Hall of Fame. We sat down for a whole week just talking to him and listening to him telling us stories about making 100 and odd, getting out, coming back to the changing room laughing, and Lance Gibbs slapping him in his face and saying, what about the 200, 100 and change, you think that's good? Those kind of stories. If he was allowed to tell these new and upcoming players, I bet you if you should send maybe Dr. Shallow has a copy of the book, I don't know. But I'm guaranteeing if he gets a copy, he will buy a few hundred and distribute them. That's what is important. That's what I'm saying.
Well, I can give you this assurance. If Dr. Shallow hasn't a copy, he's going to have one tomorrow.
Very good.
I will now make it a point of sending him a PDF copy of the book so that he can review.
He likes a hard copy. He likes the hard copy.
Okay, we can put.
Put it in the mail. But listen to what you do now. Please tell him it's compliment of the cricket show. Jatin Patel. No,
That's fine. That's fine.
I know why I'm saying that. Because the last show you did, I sent him the videotape. You see, and he's enjoying the discussions that's going on. Because remember now, he's brand new to the job. He's just become chairman. So he needs all the information he can get. So I would beg you, Jatin will make sure that we will preface the thing by sending him a letter saying a copy of the book is on the way. Please.
Well, I can
tell you. Yeah. Sorry, Tony, go ahead.
Alvin has some hardcover copies of the book. So maybe the better thing would be to get Alvin to autograph.
Here you go.
Copy, and he put one in the mail for Dr. Shallow. So I will speak to him about that.
Very good.
Tomorrow, and then we can get that. Get that going. But yes, so I mean, it's important. We had a very good launching in Berbice. The Le Parkin Company bought some books for donation to school children in Berbice, and that went over very well. And one of the things I do a weekly cricket column in Barbados Today called Wickets Hitting, where I write about West Indies cricket. And one of the features of Kali's presence in Berbice is that he did a coaching session during one of the days that were there, and there were about 60 kids there. And I mean, some of these kids didn't even know who Alvin Kallicharran was. But when they listened to him and heard him speak, it was enlightening for them. And one of the suggestions I made to VP Bazarat 2 weeks ago is that one of the things Cricket West Indies should look to adopt is this listening to legends, a tour, whereby they would take the Alvin Kallicharrans and the Andy Roberts and the Vivian Richards and, have them go and speak to school children around the region, about their personal journeys. So it's not just about the written word and books like what we have done, but also being reinforced by the physical presence of these great cricketers. I remember Sir Gary Sobers coming to Queen's College as a kid. I'll tell you a funny story that stuck with me and helped me in my cricket. Reds Pereira and I were talking about this the other night. Gary Sobers came and he was telling us that one of the ways to pick the googly from a leg spinner is that invariably when a leg spinner bowls a googly, his pinky finger on his hand picks up when he tries to get that different turn. So we had a smart-ass comedian in the class, and he said to Sagari, "So Sagari, what if the bowler taped down his little pinky so that the batsman couldn't see? What would happen then?" And Sagari said, "Well, I guess the only finger the batsman would see would be that of the umpire." So, it was a fun, but it stuck with me. And from then on, anytime I found myself batting against a leg spinner, I was always looking to see when that little pinky finger would stick in the air and I would know that the googly was coming. So, but that, I'm just using that as an example of the little things that the legends can impart that, can stay with a youngster for the rest of his life.
So let me update here one thing. We are ready to launch something new to surprise all of you. I was talking to Brother Alvin Kallicharran yesterday at length, and a few months back, he was in India to launch a 24/7 academy, first in the world, which is open 365 days. Anytime, even at night, you can practice. So he was there as a part of my project, and I have another talk show going on in India in a different language, which we develop with this same difficulty the West Indies facing right now. What we're doing in that show in Indian language is we bring the legend to show. We usually ask like normal question, how you got into the cricket? How you become interested to play cricket? And then we all know that there is a life is a journey. So in any legend, they have seen so many difficulties, so many hurdles, so many challenges, and end of the day, they become good because they have sacrificed and dedicated so many things with discipline in their life. And end of the show, we leave the legend to speak few minutes about from your story. Like I did it, you can do it. What do you say to inspire and motivate next generation? I got the successful show, you guys believe it or not, but I think it's time to launch something in West Indies like that. We can bring legends time to time on the show. And the reason I said nowadays people are not reading, people don't want to listen. But if you look at any youngster in any street, anywhere in the world, they keep their head inside the phone. So what it takes is basically that mobile application we have developed for the show, where the kids can watch and learn. And definitely, like there is a lot of things we can put to help them to improve. And that is what we recently started with the Cricket Hall of Fame as a coach's corner. And you will not believe it or not, but my second show really went to the real high caliber legends head. The one I talk about decision making, and they're all like surprised and say, this is the good thing you guys doing it.
Excellent.
So with that, I will say, go ahead, Dennis, if you have something to follow up on that book.
Yes, I wanted to say thank you to Mr. Chambers, and of course to yourself, Coach, for bringing the point that the legends in the vicinity of the changing rooms in today's matches for today's players would be a great help in terms of psychologically helping these youth to realize that they are in the presence of greatness, and just to be able to see them will certainly inspire them. So the school speaking tour with the legend is another excellent idea, and I hope that these ideas and suggestions are one that will get promulgated throughout the Caribbean and to all places where we have children involved in getting into cricket, because this is where the foundation is laid. So it is very, very important. And Mr. Chambers, that's an excellent idea. And Coach, and of course, Tony, I recognize, and I'm sure others from the cricket show do recognize the benefit and the importance of this type of, endeavors.
So yeah, with that, I will say it's almost 45 minutes in the show. So let the Tony make some conclusive statement on today's discussion, and we will 100% definitely bring him back on Cricket Show or on a Cricket Hall of Fame site, so to discuss more. So go ahead, Tony. What's your thought for tonight's show to conclude, at least for whatever you want to say, I can say.
If you could ask Jatin one quick question.
Go ahead, Leon. You said you have a question. Go ahead, Leon.
Quick question. The 4 nights in the Antigua is going to be launching the academy come Saturday at about 4:30 in Antigua. I wondered it would be a good idea for you to get in contact with them and present this book to them. And
It's interesting you say so, but because let me tell you a little history. The Alvin Kallicharran book actually came out of the inability of us to launch Sir Richie's book. The first the book is part of a series called Caribbean Cricket Superheroes. So the intention of Caribbean Cricket Superheroes is to take legendary former West Indies cricketers and portray their story, their individual stories to kids in a superhero environment so that they can be educated and inspired. And again, the whole concept of the book came out of The Greatest Guides. And it was a discussion between myself and Sir Richie, because I was talking to him about the Four Knights. And we were initially looking to do the first series of books on the Four Knights. Sir Richie went to the education minister of Antigua, who's his good friend. I actually put together a proposal, and we presented the proposal to the minister to take on the Four Knights books, and for whatever reason, it wasn't accepted. So Kali's book came out of that because we felt that given Kali's the Guyanese business community and the Indo-Caribbean business community in Guyana, that getting Kali's book would have been easier to launch as the first edition of the Caribbean Cricket's superheroes. So the Four Knights, certainly in the form of Sir Andy and Sir Richie, who have both given me permission to do their books, they're very much aware of the Caribbean Cricket superheroes, heroes, and of Kali's book. We hope at some point to also get Sir Viv and Sir Curtly on board. But yeah, sooner or later I'm going to go circle back to Sir Richie and to see what extent now the Antiguan books can be launched as part now that the Four Knights is going to be officially launched. So those plans are definitely in the works.
thank you so much for that. Thank you, Jatin.
Okay.
We are almost done here. Okay.
All right. Thank you once again, Tony, for spending some of your valuable time with us. We've learned a lot about your endeavors, and of course, we salute the ideas and the inspiration that you have presented here, especially with the booklets for the kids, because we know they will benefit from it by having heroes. Because I too remember growing up and thinking when I was playing cricket that I was Gary, or I was somebody else, Wes or Andy Roberts. So I knew the value of having a hero that you can look up to, someone that can inspire you to greatness. So we appreciate all that you've done, all that you plan to do. We wish you all the success on behalf of the Cricket Show, the Cricket Hall of Fame, and of course, all cricket-loving individuals. Thank you once again, and we hope to see you once more on the Cricket Show in the not-too-distant future. Leon?
Thank you, Jeff. Pleasure.
Thank you so much. It was indeed a pleasure. Good night, Mr. Chambers. You're looking younger.
Thank you all, and good night.
Okay, good night.
Good night.